Any questions, comments about that agenda? Anything that we need to get on the agenda for today's meeting? Not included here?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, excellent. So going through just some initial observations that I figured I'd share with you. And overall, I think that that you guys have really kind of a solid course design that you guys are working from. So, some highlights for me, the getting started content, having a dedicated getting started module for a lot of your courses. That's awesome. Aligns with QM excellently. And I think it is a great decision from a design perspective. I think you have a very clear and consistent week-based organization to your courses, at least in the selection of courses that you shared with me. So I think that's awesome, and I think that's something you guys should continue doing. And in general, I saw a lot of good use of the platform tools. So assignments, discussions, you guys use rubrics, and it looks like you guys are using rubrics well. So that's great to see. Again, I think already puts you ahead of a lot of clients I've seen that are still kind of getting up to speed and kind of adopting those best practices around rubric use. So great job. And last, instructor resources module, also a great idea. Having that released instructors and have all those resources that they need in one spot right within the course shell. That's I think great. So 3 areas I saw opportunities for improvements. The first is home pages. So I think that the homepage experience and design, there's opportunities there for improvements. There's opportunities around some of the content page styling. So we'll talk about templates and the possible uses of templates. And there's kind of a list of smaller, we might call incremental course improvements that could be made. And some of those, again, sort of time permitting, I can talk to in more detail towards the end of the meeting once we kind of talk more about our options and next steps, that sort of thing. Does this resonate with you guys? Is there anything that, is this a surprise? Kind of.
No, this is great. The homepage has been one of the thorns in our side recently. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our students, from our faculty, of it just not having click immediately off of it because there's no utility to it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so basically I have some slides kind of talking about each of these 3 kind of opportunities, and then I'm going to pull that together and come back with some recommendations, some options, and my recommended approach based on what we've seen, and then I'll try and demo some stuff. So some of the solutions that I have in mind involve things like custom homepage widgets. And so I'll be able to quickly demo some of those for you to give you an idea of what I have in mind in connection to those, and then we can regroup and talk about where we want to go. So first, some opportunities for the homepage. And I have in brackets here ways that we might kind of address or improve the experience, how we make some changes. And so here are some things right off the top that jump out at me. There's opportunity for added navigation and orientation support for learners, just to make it that much easier. As soon as they land in a course, they know what to do and they know where to go, and they can get there with as few clicks and as little uncertainty as possible. And I think that that's so important to get learners doing the things that you want them to do, be spending time on the content, right? And kind of hopefully filter out some of that, the time consuming and maybe anxiety inducing aspects of an unclear front end user navigation experience. So I'll talk some more about that as we look at some of the solutions I have in mind. Part of this can be addressed, I think, by just doing a bit of an audit and a redesign of the course homepage. So there are some great system tools, but I think there's also some really awesome custom tools that we could provide for you guys, some custom widgets that would really, I think, take advantage of the opportunity we have here to improve navigation and orientation for students. Surface some progress information. So again, we have some custom widgets that really nicely pull up to the surface some of the data that is available already within the system to let the users know what they've done already and what's next for them to do. So, hey, I've already completed all the work for week 1 and week 2. I see, okay, let me jump into week 3. That's obviously where I need to go next, that sort of stuff. There's an opportunity to declutter and streamline some of the user experience. And I'm thinking particularly of maybe the nav bar and thinking about some of the standard widgets that are already on the homepage. So at least in the sample I saw, just to take one example, I saw both activity feed and the announcements tool on the homepage. There's a lot of overlapping functionality between those two tools. So very rarely do we recommend having both of those tools in use in a course and immediately kind of visible on the homepage. So kind of choosing one as your main tool for interacting with students and sharing information with them is recommended, kind of going through that audit process and be like, which is the right one for you guys? Okay, and let's see if we can migrate away from having both of them available. On the
Chris, can I ask you, Michael, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused by that statement. When we see activities in the nav bar, that takes us directly to the discussions, the assignments for faculty. That becomes an easy way for them to go in and view everything that the student's done so they can provide feedback and grade, etc. Because
Right.
we use master courses, we have the facilitators or non-content developing faculty that cannot alter content utilize that process to be sure that they're consistently grading and things are going over into the grade book without manual entry. Then the announcement section, because we have these facilitators or non-content developing faculty engaging and facilitating the course, if they want to add something to the course, they use the announcement section to do it since they can't alter content. So my thought is, I don't know how we would be able to eliminate one of those options and still provide the flexibility and accessibility that our adjunct faculty or facilitators and our full-time faculty have to have access to.
Right. So, two things to say there. So maybe yours is a particular use case and there is a case to be made for having both tools. I think there might be also confusion here. And so when I'm talking about activity feed, I'm talking about kind of a widget that lives on the homepage.
It's right below announcements, Kim. Like that one that has.
I thought he meant in the
It's
nav
like a
bar.
Facebook wall almost.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I thought you meant the nav bar.
Yeah. No, and there is the kind of grouping of links in the nav bar, which I think you call activity.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be fine, and I think that's so I think that might have been part of the confusion there around that.
Question for you on activity feed. I know in the future they're having the ability, I don't know if they've implemented it yet, to create assignments directly from the activity feed. Are we able to lock that down? Because that will help us choose which one to go with. So right now, like Kim was saying, our facilitators can only teach the course. They can't add new activities, new content. Can we lock their functions?
Yeah, so the ability to create and add the activities right from the activity feed tool, that would depend on permissions.
Okay.
So if you are a user that doesn't have permissions to be able to perform those functions already, then you shouldn't be able to do them from the widget itself.
Awesome. I just didn't know if the permissions, some of the permissions are like all or nothing. And so that will definitely help us choose which one we want to do.
Yeah. So I think that I'm not kind of in the weeds and super knowledgeable about all of the ins and outs of the intricacies of some of the permissions and how they interact. But as a rule of thumb, that's going to be how it works. So probably isn't going to be a big concern for activity feed for you guys.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. What else can I tell you? So I think the last one, and sometimes downplayed, I think that some custom widgets will provide an opportunity to improve the kind of visual impact of the homepage. So some of this is cosmetic and inessential to the learner experience at the end. But one thing I think about in my own experience. So if I'm investing in some company and I get to the homepage, some contractor or something, and they're or we're some sort of business that I expect them to have some technical prowess, and I get to their website and their website sucks, I kind of lose confidence in the organization itself. So I think that there's an element to having visually things that look nice, but also things that look very professional and well crafted and designed. I think can have an impact on the overall user's experience or impression of the course and its quality. And I think that can have kind of subtle influences and kind of if they buy into the course and whether they trust the authority and professionalism of the organization. So anyway, so I think there's an opportunity to kind of improve the visual impact of the homepage with some widgets and at least a redesign. So I have a couple options. I can kind of continue along and talk about some of the other areas. So I talked about content styling and some of the incremental course improvements, or I can jump in and do a little bit of a demo right now of some of the widgets and possible homepage configurations. Any preference on the line?
I think I'd like to just see what else you have to offer before we start looking at what they look like, just so we kind of have an idea of where we want to spend the rest of the time.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll circle back to that. I'll definitely want to show you that to give you an idea, but we'll kind of push on then. So the next area, well, I guess the one thing I wanted to call it here. So if we dedicated some time to redesigning and maybe implementing some custom widgets and creating some homepage designs for you, or one homepage design. Think about the effort for your team down the road. The idea is would probably be kind of a small to modest kind of one-time redesign and deployment effort for your team. So it's going to be kind of less work for your team longer term to kind of roll this out and have this across your courses, because really it's just a matter of creating some home pages at the organization homepage, and then as you if you have course masters, or if you as you're updating course offerings for each semester, then it's just a matter of selecting that updated homepage, and that impact will kind of propagate across the courses for you. So kind of a smaller effort for your team ongoing, and kind of a relatively small effort up front, I think. Just, working with my team to redesign things and then come out with a plan to deploy the new homepage across all the courses that you want to apply it to. Content styling. So here I believe from our conversation last time that you guys are using an older version of an HTML template that was available through Community. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Doesn't sound like it's ringing a bell.
No.
Okay. So maybe you guys aren't using a template of any type currently.
I think we created our own template.
Okay.
Are you talking about in the the read watch areas?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
We use the one that's built in from D2L. Like when you click templates, it's the one that's built in there. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are using an older version. There are newer free versions available through Community that look better. They're, I think, more responsive and easier to use. So so when I'm talking about HTML templates, that's what I'm talking about, that kind of ability to select the page layout, and there'll be some styling in the page already available for you. So without even thinking about kind of the words on the page or any of that kind of instructional aspect of it, just thinking about the styling itself, I think there's an opportunity to, again, improve the visual impact of each page. There's an opportunity to have and maybe improve the consistency from page over page. So really kind of consistent professional presentation and also the opportunity to maybe simplify and improve the authoring experience. So as you're creating new pages, having updated templates will probably make that process even easier for you. So again, there's kind of free versions available. And the other option is we can actually go and create a custom template for you, which would incorporate some of your branding. And also we'd make some custom page layouts that are going to be unique to your use case. So for example, the read watch page, we could have a dedicated page available in the drop down, which is for exactly that function. And we could talk about what would want to go in there for that. From an effort perspective, again, this is not effort on our side, but more kind of thinking of your team effort long term. Here, kind of getting good use out of this template, it's probably going to involve a kind of a modest ongoing effort, or a very large kind of one-time effort. And the idea is there you would have to go along and update each of the content topic pages that you wanted to incorporate the new template. So probably a good option if you guys are continually creating new courses and you're not worried about, you're all right with kind of starting and having this improved visual content styling moving forward with all the new stuff that you're working on. There's going to be a kind of a bigger effort when you're looking at also pulling that back in any of the existing courses that you kind of have completed and want to improve. But so I also have I can find you some samples to show you of this as well, to give you an idea of what the free version looks like, and also what a kind of a custom HTML template would look like as well, or kind of what's possible. So we'll circle back and I'll give you some demo of that stuff. Any questions about that? Thoughts, comments?
Nope, all good here.
Okay. So the last one is, I think that there's some opportunities for, I'm calling these incremental course improvements. So these are smaller things that I've noticed kind of working through the sample courses that you provided me. They're usually kind of smaller changes in design that I think could improve the end user experience. So one is around navigation. So I think that I kind of mentioned the nav bar as maybe a place to, we can have a review and see if we can streamline that and maybe declutter that a bit. There's also I can talk through this later on. Thinking about how you structure the modules. So a kind of a flatter module structure can make kind of a nicer kind of click-through experience, and kind of require the user not to be kicked back out to the table of contents as regularly. So that can be less jarring. So that would be kind of examples of kind of module and page type redesign. I think there's some stuff around linking that you guys might consider doing differently as well. Again, these would all be aimed at kind of improving the navigational experience for students. There might be opportunity for content improvements. So being an outsider, and if we're gonna kind of pursue this more, I'd want to work with you guys to understand your users, your students, and kind of the considerations that went into how some of your pages are currently designed. But I saw, an opportunity to maybe have some more signposting, some more context and information added to the page itself to help support learners. I know that you guys have a blended approach, so I'd have to understand some of that a little bit more. But there could be kind of tweaks, kind of page by page, that might be worth considering moving forward. More integrated instruction, activity assessment. I know you guys kind of have, you'll have in the pages I saw a read watch page, and that kind of is here's the more kind of passive learning all up front. Now we're going to get you to do stuff. There might be an opportunity course by course to say, hey, we're gonna teach you a little bit of stuff. Now you get to do a little bit of stuff. Then we'll come back and teach you some more. Then we'll do some more. So maybe a more integrated workflow there for students as they work through the content, and maybe additional formative assessments. So this could involve leveraging some existing tools like the formative assessment tool in the learning environment, or third-party tools, to see if we can get more practice worked into the online portion of the learning environment. So a lot of these, as you might imagine, are going to be kind of case-by-case design decisions. So, we could do a pilot and do, review a portion of a course and see if there's any kind of broader design recommendations or best practices that you guys want to incorporate in your practice moving forward. That would be a way we could kind of work on some of this stuff. Again, thinking about the effort from your team's perspective, this is kind of a larger ongoing effort because it does involve looking at the context of every single course that you're wanting to improve and change, understanding it, writing new content, reworking maybe assessments and that sort of thing. So it's going to be kind of a larger ongoing effort, I think, in course redesign. Or, as you can imagine, how many courses are you guys responsible for that you already have created that are live?
Oh boy. It's got to be about, well, we have unique courses at PCS, and then we have multiple sections of courses.
Yeah.
So if we look at the unique courses, I'm going to say we're probably in the vicinity of 120 to 150 per semester. Right. And then, I don't know, Bree, how many are on the other side of the house?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably 300-400 maybe per semester. But the faculty are building their own courses and not necessarily using a templated process for the hundreds of courses, for the 150 courses, because those are master courses. Those do have a standardized template.
Correct.
Yeah. So anyway, just to get a sense of scope, I mean, if you guys want to do this in a systematic, comprehensive way and make changes to all your courses, that sounds like that's going to be a pretty massive effort on this kind of focusing on some of these more incremental improvements. So, I'll jump to the options, and then maybe we can come back and look at some of the stuff I had queued up to demo for you guys. Kind of what I'd say, there's other options too, but probably I think the best option for you guys is probably what we do is we sell a custom widget pack. And so with that, you would get to choose a selection of some of our standard widgets, custom widgets. And then we would work with you to do kind of a homepage redesign. The rationale for recommending this is really thinking about kind of the impact to the user and thinking about the effort that's going to take for your team to really take advantage of the work that we do together. So we can deploy the widgets, so we'll make them available to anybody who's building homepages in the future, and we can work together to design a homepage. And then we can implement that in your system, and then it's a relatively small effort on your team's part to deploy that homepage to each of the individual courses that you want to apply it to. So I feel like big impact, relatively low effort for your team makes this an excellent option. Another option is, so maybe a few notes about here. I did mention when you're thinking about templates, there is an updated template available on Community that's free, so I can point you towards that. So if you guys want to kind of take advantage of that resource moving forward, I can give you a little bit more information about that. And I can also send over a document just outlining some of the notes that I took about kind of course redesign tips and best practices that came out of my review of your course. So I can kind of just share some of that, and you guys can make use of that on your own, and it won't be kind of built into the project as part of the set of deliverables. Another option would be for our group to create a custom HTML template for you. Do some template training so we can teach some subset of your group how to make good use of these templates. And then with any remaining hours, we can do some ID consulting to fill out the hours, so I can do maybe a more in-depth deep dive in a call or two to talk about some design best practices. Maybe we can talk about specific tools and how you might be able to leverage them better, that sort of stuff. So that would be, I think, another good option. Again, sort of maybe more work for your team longer term as you're kind of taking advantage of these custom HTML templates, incorporating them into new courses that you touch and create, or some other kind of faculty enablement effort. I don't know exactly how you guys design courses and who's responsible for everything at the end of the day, but that would be how you could kind of get the benefit out of that second option. So those are kind of my top two. Any initial thought or feedback on those?
I think what might be helpful is now to go back to a visual of the homepage that you recommended, so we can think about what you've said and then visually make the connection.
Sure. Okay, sounds good. So I will pull up. So this is not a homepage that we would design. It's kind of a hot mess of all of the some of the different custom homepage widgets that we have available.
Gotcha.
But this will give you an idea of kind of what you would have to choose from. And I have two in particular in mind that I think would be awesome for you guys. So the first is what we call the welcome widget. So when I first log into a course, so this is a banner. There's also a system banner that's available in the system that I'm sure you guys are aware of. So what this custom banner does is add some functionality in addition to being able to customize in a more direct way some of the display features and text on the screen. The real kind of, I think, valuable feature for you guys would be this welcome widget content that launches. So when I am a learner and I very first land in a course, this modal will immediately pop up upon my first login and present me some crucial information right at the beginning. So I've used this in a lot of courses to provide some of that initial orientation material. So here's really quickly what the course is about, and here are some really basic things you need to know to get around in the course. How do you, what do I have to do to finish the course? Where do I access the things? How do I get help? Those sorts of really basic pieces of information you can load in here, and so that serves that up to students when they first land on the course, so that they get that and don't miss it. So it's a page-based display here. We've got one of two. You can put basically any content that you would put on a regular HTML page. You can put in here. A lot of this content is all customizable too. Basically, the student will scroll through, get the information they need, and then dismiss it. So next time the student, after they dismiss it, next time the student loads the page, sorry, this is hanging up on me. I think it's a Zoom thing. Basically, the next time they load the page, this will not automatically display. Mm-hmm. So it'll be hidden. So it won't be there distracting students subsequently, but they can always recall it by clicking this little launch welcome message again. So that information's always there. It's been presented to them once, they've dismissed it, and they don't have to, they can access it if they want it. So this would be a nice one for you guys to have, I think. The other one, and we can talk about some of these other widgets as well, is we call this the visual table of contents. And basically, this is a widget that will pull information from the table of contents and surface it to the front page of the home page. And so each of these is a module in the course. Represented here, it grabs the image from the description area of the module. I think I already noticed that you guys are in the habit of often including images in the description area, so you've already got that covered. It will grab information from the description to give you a little overview of each of the modules. So that's built in here. So that's all dynamic. You don't have to manually do any of this, configure any of this. If I click on here, it's going to bring me right to this module. If I'm partway through a module, this check mark actually says, it says continue, and that will bring me to the next page that I haven't accessed. So it'll get me into the next page as quickly as possible. And it'll also surface some of that progress information that I was talking about. So if I'm halfway through this module, it'll tell me that I've finished 10 of the 20 topics.
I love that one. That one's perfect.
Yeah.
Can,
So this,
can
go
I ask
ahead.
something about that right
Yeah.
there? My question with that is, my only concern, I love the way it looks, but that overview, or the basically showing the progress. So the issue is our students have to post original discussion and then respond. But it checks it off as completed once they post the original discussion. We've had some students say, hey, I thought I was done. The progress told me I was done, but it's not really. So I didn't know if there's any wiggle room with what that looks like. I'm just concerned people think their work is done when it's not actually
Right.
done yet.
Right. I think out of the box, it relies on that check mark that's in the system.
Okay.
So, I mean, there might be opportunity to customize this, but again, that's going to kind of change the scope of our, you know, with the hours that we have, that might be a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
but-
absolutely. I just wanted to ask. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, I think having clear messaging around that, you know, again, maybe that's something you put right in the launch information as you go, right? So you maybe have a page talking about how you complete each week's content, what's involved in that. You kind of have a big note right there at the beginning and be like, you're not done until you've responded to some of the other students.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. So that'd be an option. Yeah. So what a lot of hired courses will have, that at least I've worked on, is they'll have this welcome banner with this welcome widget. And then we'll have the visual table of contents here. And then you could have either the announcements or the activity feed as your way for instructors to communicate on an ongoing basis with students. So the idea there is that everything that they're going to see on the homepage there is hopefully going to be useful for students. It'll either be up-to-date course information, access to their modules right away, and some initial information right when they land in the course itself. So that would be to give you a sense of kind of what your custom homepage might look like. And then we could, of course, look at anything, if there's improvements that can be made to the nav bar. This is a photo bulletin widget that will actually allow instructors to post pictures that they've taken in an ongoing way to the course. So a lot of our K-12 clients love this widget because they can take images, for example, of students' artwork and post that on an ongoing basis to the homepage that will kind of pull that up to the surface. Lots of other potential uses for this widget.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that widget would be a great, talk about the social networking piece, a great way for them to have an ongoing record of resources. Can it also save visual images of websites or other digital resources, or is it strictly the image? Like, can it embed a live link?
I think it's just images.
Okay.
It's really just about images. Yeah.
Okay.
If they don't upload anything, what fills it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Short answer to that.
I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
there's faculty that will never use that, and I don't want it to be like a bunch of blank placeholders at the top, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So basically, you guys get 3 widgets, I think, on the widget pack. I would have to check on the details there. Another one that might be useful is kind of an instructor profile widget, pulling that information right to the homepage and be like, who's my instructor? How do I contact them? That sort of stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
That's another widget. We have a custom stylized calendar widget. So if your instructors do make good use of the calendar tool in the environment, this is kind of a nice way to present that. And this is a custom treatment on the announcements tool. So if for example, you do make heavy use of announcements, but you find that sometimes it can take up a lot of space. This is a way, it gives you a more compact view of announcements. It automatically pulls in images. So if you're using images in the announcements tool, and presents it in kind of a more modern, concise way that students can then kind of click into and see the full contents of the announcement.
Hey, Michael, I was wondering, this is Anne Marie. I was wondering if you could scroll up to the top.
Yeah.
And look at the nav bar, because one of the things I'm feeling like we're getting some feedback on, and you had mentioned it in your assessment, is if you notice it says content, assignments, discussions. Can we look at some of the things, because I think we're putting like under activities we have assignments and discussions, and I'm wondering if we're to your point that there is multiple clicks that the student is making, and I don't know how to streamline that
Right.
better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I alone on this, or are there other folks?
So I remember having the impression, I don't remember, I didn't jot down details, that there might be opportunity. I kind of felt like there was maybe a lot on the nav bar, and maybe that isn't all going to be useful to students. So I think we'd have to, if we were going to kind of explore, tweaking the nav bar, we really want to sit down with you guys and better understand what are the tools that they're going to use and why, and what is maybe more optional, and what is stuff that we definitely don't need students.
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing discussion, but I just happened to notice that you had your assignments and discussions and grades, and it was just separate and looked different.
So most common, I would say, as an instructor, right? So there are certain tools like Course Admin. This is going to be visible only to users with the right permissions. So some of these are going to be conditionally released based on the user. So you would expect a more simplified navigation bar if you're seeing it with a typical student sort of permission set. So you can control all that. You can create, these are all links to individual tools. So this is content, assignments, discussions, grades, quizzes. You can group them together, which you guys have already. And you can rename these. So there's a lot of different options for how you group together the tools, which ones you make really easily accessible, which ones maybe you kind of group together as maybe less essential, and you're okay with students having to take a few clicks to get to there. But that's how kind of customizing that goes.
One of the user interface struggles we're running in right now is that they go directly to assignments or to discussions, and they don't go through content first to get the supporting pieces. Do you guys have a workaround for that, or an idea for that?
So I recommend usually having information about that in the orientation.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, there are, by design, different ways that students can access and work through content. And there's not really any way to, not any easy way, or I even put it more strongly, a recommended way to kind of force users through one path. So what I like to do is kind of support users by giving the information they need, and kind of make those recommendations right here. So, be like, you can access things in different ways. Here's our recommended way to go and why, something like that. So just some context, some information up front that lets users understand the benefits of consuming the course and content in a particular way is one way to go.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
The other thing I want to show you is some template stuff. Any other questions about the custom widgets at this point? Okay, so let me see if I can pull up information for you on the, I think I've got that link in here, templates. Oh, I didn't add it here. Okay. Sorry, I'll just have to grab a website for you.